Good evening and welcome to the Extreme Networks Next Generation Data Center Solution Training. I'm here with Kevin Ryan, who's the Director of Data Center Solutions, and Daisuke Sawada, who's the Director of Product Management. And we will be starting out this evening with Kevin Ryan.
Hello, good evening and good morning to everybody out there. Thanks for joining us tonight for the call. As you know, the purpose of this training call is to go through the announcement we will be making next week at Interop around the data center and two new products we're going to be introducing. So a quick review of the agenda. We will first talk about the positioning in the data center and a brief overview of the product portfolio that we're going to be launching. From there, I'll hand it over to Daisuke, who will take us through the products, the Summit X670 and the BlackDiamond X8. Then we will wrap up and talk about some of the materials that will be made available at the time of the launch, and then open it up for questions and answers. The way we'll handle Q&A this evening is go ahead and submit your question through live meeting, and we will take a look at those questions towards the end and then answer them off of the live meeting Q&A that you submit. So feel free to submit them at any time during the presentation, and we will cover those at the very end. So talk a little bit about the industry and the market where we are targeting this launch next Tuesday at Interop. This launch is targeted directly at the emerging and rapidly growing mobility and cloud services marketplace. As you all are pretty much aware, this cloud services market is growing very rapidly. It's approaching $17 billion and has a compound annual growth rate of over 24%. So this is a market that is top of mind to most internal IT departments, CIOs, directors of IT. They're all figuring out now how do they either take advantage of public cloud services or leverage private cloud type deployments to make their internal IT more efficient. Matter of fact, recently a number of the analysts have issued reports discussing the top trends and top concerns of IT administrators today, and across the board the top issues that IT departments are looking at, whether they be service provider clouds or private clouds, is virtualization, cloud computing, and mobility. Those are the three top trends, and that's what we are addressing with the enhancement here to the data center product portfolio. One of the things that this trend is driving in the marketplace is driving the move towards 10 gigabit Ethernet in the data center. As you see in the lower chart, the 10 gigabit market is growing at about 20% compounded annual growth rate year over year. So a very fast-moving and now a very large marketplace. Towards the end of this year, we'll start to see more server and storage devices with 10 gigabit Ethernet in what they call LAN on motherboard in the server scenario, where 10 gigabit Ethernet will be native, and we expect that to drive continued growth of 10 gigabit Ethernet in the data center. Right behind 10 gigabit is 40 gigabit Ethernet. 40 gigabit is quickly becoming the de facto standard for the aggregation layer of 10 gigabit data centers, and we're seeing the 40 gig market start to emerge in 2012 and grow rapidly through 2013 and 14. The general consensus is 40 gig, for various reasons, including economic reasons, will be the de facto standard in the aggregation part of the data center network. Let's talk a little bit now about this trend, which is being driven by the acceleration of applications and devices that enable mobile users. At Extreme, our focus around the network is on optimizing this mobile worker and cloud computing in the data center space. Today, we have this data center market is a market that's very familiar to us here at Extreme. We've got a number of customers that are data center customers today. These data center customers range from traditional enterprise-type data center environments all the way to dedicated cloud-based service providers, such as companies like GigaNet, Hypertech, and profitability.net that are offering a variety of services, including storage as a service, compute as a service, and disaster recovery kind of cloud-based service offerings. So we've got a lot of good reference customers and a lot of good brand name data center accounts ranging from the enterprise space all the way to the managed hosting cloud market. Some of the key challenges that are facing IT and hosting providers in building next generation data centers revolve around delivering what we call cloud scale networks that provide the scale, openness, and simplicity in a very cost-effective architecture. Some of the key enablers of that, or key contributors to that architecture, are user and device mobility. You hear a lot about user mobility with things like iPads and iPhones, but device mobility and virtual machine mobility is also a very important part of the data center story and something we spend a lot of time on in our product portfolio with products like X and V. The other thing we're seeing as a trend in the marketplace is IT budgets are moving from CapEx to OpEx. And by that what I mean is data centers or IT folks in the enterprise are quickly looking to migrate services from their internal data centers out to either managed hosting or cloud service providers. This is driving tremendous amount of growth in the managed hosting cloud market and also making IT departments rethink their internal network decisions as to what they keep in-house and what they outsource. And for those things that they keep in-house, how do they manage those more efficiently by providing private cloud-based services? One of the other trends we're seeing in the marketplace is the move towards best-of-breed solutions in the data center. We're seeing a number of organizations, both on the service provider side and on the enterprise side, that are really starting to demand open networks and best-of-breed solutions as they build out their next-generation data center. We'll talk a little bit more about those organizations a little bit later in the presentation. Some of the key drivers around the data center is this whole concept of viewing the data center as the new computer. By this, what we mean is that the network infrastructure, both server, storage, and network, is being viewed as a shared resource that can be managed in a dynamic way in the data center, where workloads can be allocated and reallocated based on requirements of the specific user. One of the key drivers of this, of course, is virtualization, which has really led to this whole cloud computing revolution, both from a private cloud and a public cloud standpoint. The other thing that's happening in the data center is a move towards consolidation, where data centers are looking to provide highly consolidated data centers where they're putting more and more servers and more virtual machines in each rack. The density within the rack is becoming very heavy, whereas before you may have 10 servers in a single rack. Now it's common to have 30 physical servers, each of them running 40 or 50 virtual machines each. So this consolidation in the data center is driving the trend towards 10 gigabit Ethernet as well, as now people are starting to use more and more capacity of the server by highly allocating or highly utilizing virtual machines in those server deployments. From a cloud scale standpoint, another thing besides 10 and 40 gig is low latency and low oversubscription. Daisuke is going to talk about how we handle that with the next generation products further in this presentation. And lastly, green is becoming more of an issue in the data center, and we're starting to see people pay more and more attention to providing low power, energy efficient solutions, including the network infrastructure. And we'll talk about how we address that in the product portfolio as well. From a partnership standpoint, that to enable our best-of-breed solutions, we're working with a variety of different partners to make this possible. On the first line, what you'll see there is something called Intel Cloud Builders. What this is an organization that is dedicated to providing open, referenceable architectures for building cloud-based infrastructures. They work very closely with the Open Data Center Alliance, which you see on the third line item, which is a group of Fortune 500 companies that is basically speccing out what they require from a open best-of-breed solution for deploying cloud in the data center. So these two organizations, the Intel Cloud Builders and the Open Data Center Alliance, are good examples of the move towards enterprise data centers looking to deploy best-of-breed solutions for the cloud. This is something we're working very closely with them on to enable. From a service provider standpoint, we're seeing a strong move towards open cloud-based solutions as well. As you probably have noticed, we've made some announcements recently around both OpenStack and OpenFlow. OpenStack announcement went out about 3 or 4 weeks ago, where we're working closely with OpenStack to define the network level of the OpenStack management and provisioning platform. For those of you that don't know, OpenStack is the leading open source cloud management and provisioning platform that is rapidly being adopted by many of the cloud service providers today and is a contribution of code from both Rackspace and NASA. OpenFlow, we made an announcement about this morning, and we'll be demonstrating OpenFlow at Interop next week in Las Vegas. So for those of you that are going to be there, please do come by and see what we're doing with OpenFlow. The fourth line is around virtualization. As you know, we've always taken a very hypervisor agnostic approach to support of virtualization. We believe this is very important to enable choice and best-of-breed solutions for both enterprise and managed hosting cloud service providers. We recently released our first version of XNV, which supports VMware and Citrix. So that is out and shipping today, and we'll be supporting Red Hat and Microsoft in the coming next release. Last but not least, from an ecosystem partner standpoint, we're working very closely with server and storage ecosystem partners as well. Most recently, we've done quite a bit of work around Ethernet-based storage and Ethernet-based SANs with NetApp and Intel. For those of you that haven't seen it, we have a white paper on our website that describes our iSCSI SAN-based solution with our partners NetApp and Intel, and describes how you can get very good cloud-based performance using extreme networking equipment along with NetApp iSCSI SAN. So now to the product portfolio. As we mentioned earlier, we're going to be announcing new products here at Interop that really round out and augment our existing data center product portfolio. We're going to be announcing new Summit Stack products, our stackable product family, and the BlackDiamond BDX, which is our cloud-scale chassis-based product. We'll continue to have the BlackDiamond 8900 and the other Summit Gigabit and 10 Gigabit Ethernet products in the product portfolio to complete the entire data center switching solution. All of these products will continue to run on our single operating system, Extreme Exos, and leverage our Ridgeline management platform. One of the unique things about this product portfolio that we think is significant in the marketplace is across the entire product portfolio, from the Summit stackable products all the way to the new BlackDiamond X8 chassis-based product, we support 40 Gigabit Ethernet, both on the BlackDiamond 8800 chassis, the Summit 670s, and the BlackDiamond X8. So we have a complete end-to-end 40 gigabit solution for the data center, which we believe is going to become more important as 10 Gigabit Ethernet gets deployed on server and storage devices. The entire product portfolio will also have the rest of the data center solution support as well, which includes data center bridging, MLAG, direct attach VEPA, XNV, and OpenFlow. So these are all common across our data center switching product portfolio. So with that, what I will do now is hand it over to Dai, who will take us through the products that we will be announcing next week.
Thanks, Kevin. This is Dai Salada, Director of Product Management, and today I would like to go over the product overview for the ones that we will be announcing next week, which are Summit X670 and the BlackDiamond X8. Both are the cloud-scale data center product portfolio. But first of all, I would like to start with the Summit X670, some of the details about what product will look like and what we can support with the new platform. The Summit 670 is a top-of-rack 10 gigabit Ethernet switch, and we will be having two different kinds of models, the 670V and the 670. The 670V version can support up to 64 port of the 10 gigabit Ethernet or the 48 port of the 10 gigabit Ethernet plus 4x40 gigabit Ethernet. Depending upon whether you're going to put the module in the back of the chassis or not, you will be able to get the investment protection starting with a 48 port 10 gig and go up to by adding a 4x40 gig Ethernet module. The other model, Summit 670 X670, is a 48 port 10 gig Ethernet port with the lower latency system. Both of the system can support both 1 gig speed optics and as well as a 10 gig Ethernet optics and the cables. And we will be supporting the BCP and the storage convergence, and we will be supporting a very high scalable virtual machine support for up to 128K. And we have a unique feature for both of the system called motion sensor detection, which I will be talking about in the next few slides. So first of all, wanted to introduce what are the models and what are the options that we have on the 670 system. The 670 system, again, comes in two flavors, 670V48X or 670-48X. Both of the system, unlike the other competitor system, we will be supporting a full suite of power options, including AC power supply and DC power supply. And we also support the AC power supply and DC power supply in a mixed configuration, where you can support the DC as a master power and the AC as a backup from the UPS or vice versa. So that way you can have a very flexible power configuration depending upon the environment in the data center that you have or your customers have. So those are the switches and the power supplies, and the other options, including the software licenses and the modules, are first of all, the optional licenses. We have a core license features to enable the high scalable, the routings and the layer 2 switching protocols being supported with the core license. And in addition to that, then we will be having the MPLS feature pack for those who would like to support the MPLS functionality on the high density 10 gigabit Ethernet platform. The other feature pack that we have is the direct attach feature pack that will allow you to do the DEPA or direct attach hairpin switching capabilities, where you would like to eliminate the need for the salt switch on the hypervisor. You enable the direct attach features by using this feature pack. The last one is the hardware options, which is very unique in the marketplace, where you can see from the competitors of Extreme providing either the 10 GB Ethernet switching or the 10 GB Ethernet with the 40 GB Ethernet embedded, fixed into the system. Unlike those offerings, so our Summit X670V system will be having 40 gigabit Ethernet as an optional module. So we are not forcing our customers to go by 40 gigabit Ethernet from get-go. It's just providing the future-proof and the longevity of the network by providing a very high-density 48-port 10 gigabit Ethernet first. Then customer can go upgrade to the 4x40 gigabit Ethernet uplink. So that's the optional license and modules that we provide on the 670. So let's get into a little bit more detail one by one for those two different type of switches. So first of all, the 670V-48X, which has a future-proof, the module, a slot in the back of the chassis where you can get the 40 gig Ethernet as an option card. From a features and scalability perspective, we have a very high scalable layer 2 MAC address support, which is 4x scalability than the Summit 650. And we have high scalable IPv4 routing tables to cover the data center setup. And in addition to the scalabilities and the features, we will be supporting the data center bridging protocols, such as priority flow control or TFC, and ETS, which is the enhancement of the quality of services inside the data center network when you do the conversion of the storage and the data network, as well as the data center bridging exchange protocol that to exchange the parameter of ETS and TFC automatically propagate inside the data center. So those BGP full suite of the support will allow you to have a converged network inside your network, a data center network. And the 670B48X has a very, very fast switching inside the system and provides sub 1 microsecond latency to be able to optimize the performance for the applications such as the financial trading type of application or the high-performance computer cluster type of application. So 670B48X, as I discussed about, we will be supporting the 4x40 gigabit Ethernet module, and these 40 gigabit Ethernet port can be configured as the 4x10 gigabit Ethernet if you would like to make the 40 gigabit Ethernet port running as the 10 gigabit Ethernet port for the compatibility or some other reasons. And to make the 40 gigabit Ethernet port run as a 10 gigabit Ethernet port, you use the 40 gigabit Ethernet optics, 40G based SR4 optics, plugged into the QSFP plus port, and use the breakout cable that you can see in the middle of the slide on the bottom. The orange cable, one side you connect to the QSFP plus optics, and the other side you will see the 4 pairs of LC connections. And that way, the 40 gigabit Ethernet port will become compatible with the 10G based SR interface. Then you can directly connect it into the 10G based SR interfaces from the QSFP plus 40 gigabit Ethernet port. If you prefer to have cost-effective connectivity for the shorter distance or up to 100 meters using fiber cables, you could use that fiber assembly cable for the passive copper solution for up to 3 meters and active fiber cable for up to 100 meters. So those are a variety of options for the QSFP Plus or the 40 gigabit Ethernet port. The other model, the 67048X, has a very cost-effective and aggressively priced 10 gigabit Ethernet switching with the same functionality and feature set and scalability as the higher-end B version. The differences between the two systems are the two things. So one is on the rear of the box, the 670-48X model does not have optional slot in the back, so it will be fixed with the 48-port 10 gigabit Ethernet switching. And the other difference between the two of the system is this 670-48X is designed in a way what we call PHY-less design. A PHY-less design means that you don't have a PHY chipset on the motherboard of the system. That way, we can provide a lower power consumption on this particular box, as well as the lower latency than the B version of the system. So that way, you can actually get the 48 port of the 10 GB Ethernet performance and functionality and scalability at a much lower cost. So those are the two options that Extreme Networks will be providing as a choice for the customers. The customer prefers to have a 40 GB Ethernet uplink, then the X670B will be your solution. And if customers would like to prefer the lowest cost possible high-density 10 GB Ethernet system, then the 670-48X will be your choice. Due to the PHY-less design, one of the things that I wanted to mention about the differences in terms of the supported SFP plus transceivers and optics is that the PHY-less design system, the 670-48X, will not support 10G-based LLM optics or the longer distance SFP plus passive copper direct attach cable. So the passive copper direct attach cable distance is limited to 3 meters, and anything longer cable, we will recommend if you need to have a longer distance SFP plus direct attach copper cable support, we recommend the X670B version of the system, which can support up to 10 meters of the distance. So let's talk about the airflow options for the 670B. The 670B is the first product from Extreme Networks to provide a reversible airflow to accommodate the variety needs from the customers in the data center, where some customers would like to have the data ports on the front panel, and the other customers would like to prefer to have the data ports in the back of the system. in order to accommodate while keeping the air direction front to back all at the same time. We made the reversible airflow possible for the 670B-based system. You will be able to choose front to back system or back to front system. And in case you choose front to back or back to front, you will have to have associated power supply because the power supply has its own airflow as well. And the spare fan modules must be matching the same direction because it's not software controllable. So it's the harder differences between the front to back and back to front. That's one of the things that I wanted to mention about the reversible airflow. The next thing is the stacking option. The stacking is one of the biggest differentiator we believe that Extreme Networks have for all of the Summit X series systems, starting with the Summit Stack and Summit Stack V and V80 with the recent introduction with the recent Summit X8 system for the Gigabit Ethernet. We will be enhancing that Summit Stack V80 solution, doubling up the bandwidth of the stacking speed from 80 gigabit per second to 160 gigabit per second by using exactly the same QSFP plus cable and creating a stack and being able to compatible between the V160 and the V80. So that way you can either have 160 gig stacking by using the 670B with the 40 GB Ethernet module, and you could get provider compatibility by making the port operate at in the mode of the Summit Stack V80 mode. So you can have a mix and match with the V80 and V160, and if you would like to have the slower speed of the stacking, you could still do the Summit Stack V, which runs the stacking over the 10 gigabit Ethernet interface. So those are the two options and the three options that we can offer with the new 670 system. And here's a chart that shows you which stacking technologies can be supported on which of the platform, and that will summarize how you can mix and match the stacking. Then basically the 670V or 670 system can mix and match the stacking from the Gigabit Ethernet capable X450E and up system. So I talked about some of the optic support differences between the 670 and 670V. Here is to summarize the differences between the two. For the 40 GB and QSFP Plus support is the obvious one because the non-V version doesn't have 40 GB Ethernet support. The difference is really in the 10 GB Ethernet SFP Plus transceivers. As you can see on the lower from the 10G based LLM SFP Plus, which I say new, that has the differences between the 670 and 670V. The 670 system doesn't support LLM, but the V version supports LLM. And the passive copper cable up to 3 meters versus up to 10 meters. So those are the differences between the two in terms of the optical transceivers, SFP and SFP Plus, as well as the QSFP Plus. To compare the 670 system against the 650, then you can see some of the significant improvement over the Summit X650 system, such as the layer 2 MAC forwarding databases, as I mentioned, the 4x the scalability than the 650 to be able to support highly virtualized environment, where we started seeing the 10 gig enabled servers tends to have more virtual machines per physical servers, like 32, 64, and in some cases 128 virtual machines running on the physical server. So to be able to support these highly virtualized systems, and we will be providing a 4x of scalability for the layer 2 MAC forwarding databases. Another differences between the two is the power and the fan cooling related. In terms of power, again, the 670 and 670V system can support dual hot swappable AC-DC, as well as a mixed operation of AC power supply and DC power supply. So that's the mixed portion of the power supply support is the new and enhancement over the 670. The fan cooling system is also improved. The 650 has a removable fan tray, and you can remove and change the fan tray in case it fails, instead of sending the whole system back to us and do the LMA. You can simply change the fan in case the fan tray is the fading point. On the 670V or 670 system, the fan is modularized to 2+1 operation. It's actually 3 fans in the back of the system, and you could lose one fan without degrading the performance of the system. So what that means is, in case of one fan fails in the system, you can swap out the fading fan, and you can restore it without shutting down the switch, shutting down the network. So that's the enhancement, and you can see the other differences between the two in terms of the access controllers and such. The last piece that I wanted to talk about is the Summit 670 interesting and the new unique functionality, which is the motion sensor detection. So 670 has a motion sensor detection on the right-hand side of the front panel that will allow you to use the switch as a security device to sense whether somebody is moving or somebody is in front of the rack. And you could alert the system by using SNMP trap or syslog, or using the event management system running inside the Excel system. And you could even shutting down the LEDs when nobody is moving around, and it only blinks up when somebody shows up, because if somebody shows up, obviously somebody was trying to do something, and then you would like to see the LEDs blinking. So those security features, we got some of the feedback from the customers in the managed co-location data center customers, where they would like to have the rack system very, very highly secured from a physical security standpoint. And some of the environment has, as you may know, has a security camera sitting or installed in every other rack or every rack system to detect what's going on inside the data center. And in some cases, the security camera setup, it may be too much, and we discussed about it and see if that helps by having a motion sensor on the switch, and it's embedded, and you can use that as a detection point to figure out what's going on in the physical data center from a physical security standpoint. Okay. So that's about the 670. And the next topic is going over the next generation, very high performance and ultimate capacity switching BlackDiamond X8. The BlackDiamond X8 is the cloud scale next generation chassis product family and chassis product offering from Extreme Networks targeted towards the cloud data center environment. It has a significant high performance switching capacity for up to 20 terabit switching capacity as a whole system. Maybe an easier way to explain the capacity is the slot band-wise. So in the BlackDiamond X8 system, we can support up to 1.28 terabits per second band-wise per slot in terms of capacity. That is more than 100 ports of the 10 gigabit Ethernet can be supported at the full line rate with this 1.28 terabit band-wise per slot. So that results in the density-wise, we can support up to 192 40 gigabit Ethernet or 768 10 gigabit Ethernet, all running at the wire rate. So this is a very, very significantly improved and enhanced from a switching performance perspective. And given that super density and the scalability and the capacity, we made the system very, very highly available from a hardware and a software design point of view. In terms of the switching fabric module that you are not seeing from the picture here, but I will be showing in the next few slides. But the switching fabric module is N+1 redundant. What that means is you can lose one of the fabric without losing the capacity for the wire rate operation. And the power has the N+1 as well as N+N power grid redundancy to be provided. The fan module is also redundant. You can hot swap the fan without losing your capacity of the system in terms of throughput. And in addition to the switching performance and availability, we made sure that it has a very low latency as well as a very low power consumption in the physical side. So latency-wise, the port-to-port latency will be less than 3 microseconds. That is less than half of the latency compared to any of the products that you can see in the marketplace. And the physical size of the box is only a third rack size. You can put 3 systems in the typical 7-hood rack, so you can get the very high density system, but very high density end of row if you want to get the high 10 GB Ethernet connections from networking point of view. So going into more intelligence and sustainability characteristics of the BlackDiamond X8. So first of all, this is designed to be able to support a cloud scale data center environment, and that means that we will be able to support the very high scalable virtualization support, up to 128K virtual machines, assisted by the XMV capabilities that we support on all of the data center class Extreme product line, which will be carried over to the BlackDiamond X8 at the higher scale, and the virtual port profile will be moving around inside the system or across the system depending upon where the virtual machine moves inside the data center network. To improve and enhance the manageability of the system, we also have a zero-touch configuration. So when you set up the network or when you try to deploy the data center network, you don't have to send the technician to configure on-site by enabling this zero-touch configuration. All of the configuration can be done offline and put it on the servers, and once you connect the networking equipment such as BlackDiamond X8 onto your management networking inside the data center, all of the configuration will be automatically detected and downloaded into the system and rebooted, and it will go online automatically. So that way we will help significantly reduce the number of time to get the switch deployed on site, especially when it comes to the higher number of switches to be installed. The storage convergence will be supported natively in the system by leveraging the data center bridging capabilities, including NFS, CIFS, I-SCSI, and Fiber Channel over Ethernet. Sustainability-wise, so significant portion of this sustainability comes from the fact that it's very, very green design from a power consumption point of view. As you may know or may realize from the existing generation of the system from anybody in the marketplace, the power consumption for the chassis-based system per 10 gigabit Ethernet port is typically somewhere between 10 watts to 20 watts or sometimes 30 watts. And we realize that in order to make the next generation high-density, high-capacity system viable and sustainable in the regular data center setup, we realize the need of making it improved significantly in terms of the power consumption, because if you have 20 watts per port, and if you have, say, for instance, 500 of 10 GB in a port, that's like a 10 kilowatts of the power consumption, which is almost impossible or very, very difficult to prepare for any of the data center setup just for the networking gears. So we made it very power consumption greenness, and the actual number is our 10 gigabit Ethernet power consumption per port per 10 gigabit Ethernet port is 5 watts, assisted by the pure front-to-back cooling, and assisted by the intelligent power management as well as a variable fan speed. All of the components will contribute to the fact that we are consuming very, very low amount of power even in the system operates at the full speed. So that's the overview of the BlackDiamond X8 system. And before going into a little bit more detail about how we architected and design and what the differentiating features and characteristics of BlackDiamond X8, I would like to briefly talk about the relative positioning of the Extreme Networks chassis product line. So as you can see on the slide, the chassis product line, BlackDiamond X8 Chassis and X8 series, the newly introduced system within the Extreme portfolio, you can separate into two different markets. One is the core metro and mobile backhaul type of applications where you need a high-scale routing or switching. And data center core and access, which you're going to need high-density gigabits and 10 gigabit Ethernet and the 40 gigabit Ethernet in much higher density manner. So that's the differences between the two. And for the core metro mobile backhaul high-scale routing system, we position the BlackDiamond 8K with the 8900 XL series blade that will get you quite high performance and high scalability. As you can see, the layer 2 and layer 3 scale is high. And the data center core and access and cloud scale switching, we provide a very high density 10 gig and 40 gig Ethernet system, especially on the BlackDiamond X8. So those are the separations and the positioning for the BlackDiamond X8 system, and it's very purposely designed for the cloud scale data center deployment. They're going into a little details about the BlackDiamond X8 offerings. The BlackDiamond X8 will come in the flavor of the management module, of course, which you can install 2 of the module in the system. And we will be having a 10 gigabit Ethernet module and a 40 gigabit Ethernet module. One 10 gigabit Ethernet module will have a 48 port of them, non-blocking wire array, of course, and 24 port 40 gigabit Ethernet and 12 port 40 gigabit Ethernet. All of the module, when you have a fully populated the fabric module, then you can run at high at the wire rate speed. We have 2 different kinds of fabric modules set up. One is a 1.28 terabit per second capacity or performance of the fabric module that will get you 20 terabits of the performance. The other fabric module is a 640 gigabit per second fabric module. And the separations, or the way we recommend customers, are the following. So for those who would like to have a future-proof and would like to have a less upgrade cycles, and we always recommend the 1.28 terabit fabric modules, no matter what kind of blade or no matter what type of the capacity you would like to have, because your network will grow as time goes. If you would like to optimize the cost of the system at a little bit lower scale or lower capacity of the system, we recommend the 640 gig fabric module. That is going to be very ideal for the system where you do not need 24 port 40 gigabit Ethernet QSFP plus module. The reason for that is with this 640 gigabit per second fabric module, both 48 port 10 gig modules and 12 port 40 gig module can run at the wire rate as well, and even under one fabric module failure. So that's the separation between the two in terms of fabric module offerings. Okay. Going into the details about the chassis, how it looks like. So you have a front view of the 8 power supply slots on the top of the chassis, and those 8 power supply slots can take 8 power supply, of course, and you can have 4 power supplies and 4 power supplies all installed in the N+N grid redundancy configuration in a fully loaded configuration. And underneath you have a dual management slot, which works in a redundant manner, and 8 I/O module slot follows after that. In the back of the chassis, on the left-hand side, you see the 8 AC power input sockets on the top that are paired with the 8 power supply slots. And underneath, you see the 5 fan modules that are installed vertically. And inside or underneath of the fan tray, you will see the 4 fabric module slots available. So in the fully configured system, you have 5 fans, and underneath you have 4 fabric modules, and on the slot side you have 8 I/O card and 2 management module and 8 power supply slots. So So that's the configuration of the BlackDiamond X8. And I talked about the BlackDiamond X8 has a significant high performance compared to any of the chassis-based systems in the marketplace. And the technical reason why we were able to make the system so fast and so scalable, then one of the reasons is related to the chassis data plane architecture. The chassis data plane architecture typically, and including our BlackDiamond X8 system, uses the backplane system, or in some cases the midplane system will be chosen to get the chassis-based system. The backplane or midplane, in both cases, it means that you have a printed circuit board and at the back of the chassis or in the mid of the chassis, and you go through these PCB traces to get the signal between the fabric modules and I/O module. That's how, at the high level, the chassis data plane works. And in order to overcome the typical challenge of having the signal running too fast for the PCB and you cannot get any faster than some certain point, we made the system in a way that we do not use midplane or backplane. Instead, we directly connect the I/O modules and fabric module with the direct mating technology. So direct mating technology doesn't go through either backplane or midplane. Its connector directly mates together between the fabric module and I/O module. So that way, we make the traces between the fabric module and I/O module to 0, and then we can run much faster signal rate to get the high density and high capacity system inside as a system of the BlackDiamond X8 system. So that's the significance of scalability and the port density that we can provide with the BlackDiamond X8. And this is a summary of the high-level features and scalability. So the one thing that I wanted to note is the BlackDiamond X8 is going to be the fully scalable Layer 2 and Layer 3 capable system, including MPLS support. So all of the features that you're getting from the BlackDiamond X8 system will be, of course, carried over with massively high density and much lower density, much lower latency with the BlackDiamond X8 system. The software license-wise, this is also very similar to BlackDiamond 8K-based system. The BlackDiamond X8 system will ship with the Advanced X license, and you can go upgrade to the Core license when you need the BGP4 support or ISIS support and so on. Depending upon the protocol support and feature-wise, you can change upgrade the license level to the Core license. And in addition, you could add another feature pack such as MPLS, as well as the direct attach hairpin switching capabilities. So that's the license structure of the BlackDiamond X8 system. Lastly, what I wanted to discuss as a part of this training session is how the BlackDiamond X8 changes the way you design or you can design the data center in the network. So given the fact that we have more than 700 10 gig Ethernet ports running at the wire rate in single box, we can significantly simplify the network operations and design and reduce the number of switches and latencies by making it the data center in a box type of operation. Because for up to 700 or 768 10 gig Ethernet servers can be directly connected by using a QSFP plus breakout cables. So that way you reduce the number of boxes, right? So say for instance, if you try to create this 768 10 gig Ethernet wire array connection from the half capacity chassis, such as the ones from Arista, you're going to need at minimum 6 chassis to get the non-blocking operations. And instead, we can get you in one box. And not only one box, we can pair 2 boxes together leveraging the MLOG technology, and each of the servers can get two 10 gig Ethernet connections active, working in the load shared mode by making two systems in a pair for more than 700 ports of the 10 gig Ethernet running at the wire rate. So those wire rate operations is going to become more important as the server is going to be used in a cloud networking operations. And in the cloud networking environment, all of the things are virtualized. And in the virtualized environment, the computer or VM to VM communication will happen more frequently than a legacy data center design, which were more like a client server as well as server to storage networking traffic. So that will be optimized with the BlackDiamond X8 system, and a very high scalable, more than 700 server system can be super simplified. Rather than using multiple boxes, you can use just one box and another box to get the boost and the redundancy of the system in the network. So that covers the most of the network, and that will provide you the significant cost benefit over the other vendor solutions before the BlackDiamond X8. And in addition, we can go up to much higher scalable system by creating the network design in a very simple manner for up to 4,000 servers or 9,000 server systems, simply using end-of-row aggregations as well as the top-of-rack architectures. And then you get very low latency, less than 5 microsecond latency from port to port, and for up to 4,000 servers into BlackDiamond X8 and the multiple Summit X670 systems. And you can go up to, say, 9,000 servers, and you can go beyond that if you like. So the very high scalable, and not only this is high scalable, the important thing is Extreme Networks make sure that all of the technologies are standards-based, and we are not locking in customers in doing the Extreme Networks design proprietary based. So it's all open-based technologies, and if you like, our system works with other vendors' technologies as long as they use the standard-based technology. So you could upgrade, or you could propose your customer to upgrade the top of rack first, or the aggregation of the box first, and then gradually migrate the system compared to some of the competitors offering forces you to do the full-fixed upgrade for the entire data center to get the proprietary public-based technologies. So our open public technologies allows you to much smoother migrations from the current networking design to the newer cloud-ready data center networking design. Okay. So that was about the BlackDiamond X8 and Summit X670 system training presentation. And the last two slides are going to show you the pricing and availability for both of the systems, starting with the 670 pricing. And 670 availability will be on the July of this year for the front-to-back system, and the back-to-front-based system will be released 3 months after that. So all of the SKUs will be, with the exception of the back-to-front-based system, all of the SKUs will be ready on the July of 2011, which is this year. And as you can see, the pricing for the 670B as well as the 670 system is very aggressively priced, especially for the 670B 48X. You can see it's only $14,995 in the North America list price, and that is almost equivalent to the 48-port 5 gigabit Ethernet switch. So this proves a statement of us saying that to get the 10 gigabit Ethernet density and performance at the cost of the gigabit Ethernet if you choose the 670-48. The last one is the BlackDiamond X8 and pricing availability. Availability for the BlackDiamond X8, we will be going into the customer trial in the third quarter to fourth quarter of this year, later this year, and we will be making it generally available in late January of next year. The port configurations, for instance, the highest density, the maximum port configuration with the 192 port of the 40 gig or the 768 or 10 gig Ethernet port. The preliminary pricing is $775,000 US list price with the fully loaded and the fully redundant configuration. The half capacity system, which is a 384-port 10 gigabit Ethernet SFP Plus configuration, is a $475,000. This is, again, a fully loaded and a fully redundant configuration. Okay, that's all I have for the product training, and I would like to hand it over back again to Kevin.
Great, thanks, Dai. So that concludes the training portion. What I'd like to do now is talk about some of the deliverables that you will be receiving shortly. First of all, the launch will be Tuesday, May 10th. The key events will be Interop Las Vegas, where we'll be demonstrating products. So if you or your customers are going to be there, please feel free to invite them to the event. We will also be participating in launching the products at upcoming channel conferences, both in Europe and the Asia-Pac region. From a communication standpoint, we've been busily briefing analysts and press regarding this announcement. So the week of the launch, the week of May 10th, you should see quite a bit of activity in the press around this product in both press and analyst write-ups. Materials that will be available at the launch include presentation material, both around the new products, the BlackDiamond X8 and the Summit X670, as well as an updated corporate data center and BlackDiamond and Summit product family presentation as well. So all the material will be available at the time of launch. And there will be new collateral available as well, including products at a glance, comparison chart, product-specific collateral around the Summit X670 and BlackDiamond X8, as well as a white paper around the Extreme Networks Open Fabric, and a solutions brief on the same topic. We will also be issuing a FAQ as well, which will have a bunch of the questions we've received from previous training sessions, and will include the questions we don't get to from this training session. So with that, let's move to the questions and see what people have asked so far.
So the first question is about the 10G-based availability for the BlackDiamond X8, and the question exactly was, will the X8 have a 48-port 10G-based line card or only 10G-based 10 gig SFP Plus? So the answer is that at the timing of the first iterations of the general availability, we will be going with the 10 gig SFP Plus first. And 10G-based T-line card is something that we are planning to introduce later at the, after the GA of the SFP Plus version of it, and we are expecting to have the 10G-based T in the future. As the 10G-based T will become a dominant technology in the data center, which we believe it will happen in sometime in 2012, or it could be 2013. So the next product-related question was the differences between VIM3 and VIM4. So the answer is the VIM3 is the exact product name is the VIM3-40G4X. It's the module for the Summit X650. The 40 gigabit Ethernet module for the 650 is a VIM3. And the 40 gigabit Ethernet module for the 670V is VIM4. So those are the differences, and there are pricing differences. Actually, the VIM4 is more aggressively priced than the VIM3, so that by taking advantage of the newer design of the 10 GB Ethernet system switching, and we were able to do this kind of aggressive pricing for the VIM4.
So the next question is around availability of the slide deck, and will it be available on the partner site? So yes, the presentation along with the other material around the launch will be published. When will that be published?
At the day of the launch.
So Tuesday, May 10th is when all that information will be available on the partner site. So just to remind people on the call, these products have not been announced yet. So they will be announced and publicly made, the information will be publicly made available on that date. Great. So I see we've run over by about 5 minutes. We've got a bunch more questions as well. What we will do is capture the questions from this and the other training that we haven't gotten to and make sure they're covered in the FAQ that you will receive at time of the launch as well.
And just as a reminder, on the screen right now, we have a link to the training quiz. So you can receive continuing education credits by taking a training quiz on the topic of this webinar. And if you go to this link now, you can use what you've learned. Otherwise, you can find the link to the training quiz on the Partner webinar page or on the Internet Sales Training page. So we encourage you to do that and get some credits. Otherwise, we will go ahead and close this meeting, and we appreciate your attendance. Thank you very much. Good night.